1 second. Right, I believe we have some footage that has been taken on a mobile phone. Let's have a look at it.
11 seconds. That's all the footage lasted. But in those 11 seconds, a tourist drone may have captured something scientists still cannot explain. A massive stone door, hidden inside the cliffs of Giant's Causeway, slowly sliding open. It happened during what should have been an ordinary drone flight. A 34-year-old electrician from Dublin had lifted his drone over the Irish coastline, chasing the last golden light of sunset. His camera was pointed toward the famous basalt columns stretching along the sea. Then, the impossible appeared. In the footage, a 20-ton slab of solid stone begins to move outward from the cliff face, not cracking, not collapsing, sliding smoothly, like a perfectly engineered door. Behind it, there is something even stranger. Pure darkness, not the shadow of a cave, not rock walls, just a deep black void where the cliff should be solid. Seconds later, the stone quietly seals itself again, leaving no seam, no fracture, and no sign it ever moved. And that's exactly why scientists are so disturbed, because according to geology, the volcanic rock of Giant's Causeway should be completely solid, which raises a terrifying question. If that stone really opened, what was hidden inside? Before we reveal what experts discovered when they analyzed those 11 seconds, make sure to like and subscribe, because some believe this footage captured something that was never meant to be seen. The footage, what 11 seconds changed. The man behind the camera was a 34-year-old electrician from Dublin. Not a paranormal investigator, not someone with an agenda. He launched his consumer drone to get some footage of the sunset over the coast. He came home with something he still can't fully explain. The video runs 11 seconds. In it, a section of the cliff face, solid basalt, massive, ancient, separates cleanly from the surrounding rock and slides outward. There's no cracking sound, no cloud of debris, no explosion of dust from rock that's been compressed for millions of years. It simply opens, smooth, silent, deliberate. The void behind it is a perfect black, the kind of black that doesn't belong to shadow. It's the black of an enclosed space that hasn't seen light for a very long time. Then it closes, slower than it opened, and when it's done, the cliff is exactly as it was. No gap, no scar, no evidence of movement at all. When the footage hit the internet, experts were calling within hours. One coastal geologist, 15 years of research on that specific formation, said the footage either breaks every known law of rock formation or it represents the most sophisticated hoax ever attempted. The electrician passed every verification test. Metadata was clean. Multiple forensic video analysts found no signs of editing or digital manipulation. So if it wasn't fake, then something opened that cliff, and someone needed to find out what was on the other side. What the radar found. The answer to that question arrived fast, and it was worse than anyone expected. A top coastal geologist, one of the leading researchers on that specific stretch of basalt, arrived with ground-penetrating radar equipment within days. She set up at the section of cliff shown in the drone video and began scanning. She stopped speaking for almost 2 full minutes when the results appeared on her screen. The radar revealed a hollow chamber inside rock that was supposed to be solid all the way through. 12 feet deep, 26 feet wide. A sealed room, hidden inside 60-million-year-old volcanic stone. But the chamber itself wasn't what silenced her. Inside it, the sonar detected 7 figures, standing upright, each one between 7 and 8 feet tall, spaced exactly 4.5 feet apart from each other, all of them facing the direction of the sealed entrance. A perfect formation, like soldiers, like they were waiting. Now here's the geological impossibility at the core of this. Basalt doesn't form around standing objects. When lava cools, it doesn't neatly encapsulate things and preserve them inside. The only way these figures could exist inside that rock is if they were already there when the lava was still liquid, already standing, already in formation. That means they've been inside that cliff for at least 60 million years. 60 million years ago, the last of the dinosaurs was still dying out. Modern mammals had barely appeared. Homo sapiens wouldn't exist for another 59 million years. Whatever is standing in that chamber, it was here before us, long before us. The figures aren't solid stone. If the discovery of the chamber was the first shock, the second shock arrived the very next day, and it made everything more unsettling. A geophysicist from Belfast, a specialist in reading underground structures, arrived with higher resolution scanning equipment. He started his work calm and methodical. 20 minutes later, witnesses said his hands were shaking so badly he had to set his tablet down on the rock. His scans showed that the 7 figures were not made of solid stone. They were hollow shells, thin outer casings, like suits or like containers, as if something had once been inside them, or possibly still was. And the material those shells were made of had no match in any geological database. Whatever they're constructed from should not have survived the heat of liquid lava. Nothing known to modern materials science, nothing organic, nothing engineered, nothing natural, can withstand 2,000 degrees of molten basalt and come out intact 60 million years later. Yet there they stood, preserved, upright, in formation. Within 48 hours, government agencies had been notified, and that's when the story changed shape. An official team arrived and issued a statement. The drone footage was a visual illusion caused by light and shadow. There was no hidden chamber. There was nothing inside the cliff. The public was advised to stop speculating. The lead consultant on that team refused to sign the official report. Those who were present said she reviewed the sonar data, went pale, and walked out. Her resignation letter, submitted 1 week later, said only that she had seen enough. The area was barricaded within days. Erosion risk, said the signage, safety concerns, standard procedure. But everyone who'd been on site knew it wasn't standard anything. 4 days after the initial scan, one researcher slipped back to the site before the barriers were fully established. She wanted to run a comparison scan, standard scientific practice, checking whether any readings had changed since the first pass. She expected everything to be exactly as it was. 7 figures, standing, waiting. When the new image resolved on her screen, she counted. 6. 1 was gone. The stone door had not opened. The electrician had installed a motion-activated camera, pointed directly at that section of cliff after publishing his footage. It had been running continuously, day and night, for 4 days. The footage showed nothing. No movement, no crack in the rock. The door stayed perfectly sealed for the entire recording. Yet inside, a locked chamber, inside solid basalt that had not opened. One of those 7-foot figures had simply ceased to be there. No debris, no dust, no tunnel visible on any scan. No gap, no passage, no way in or out. It had moved through solid stone. The researchers spent days trying to account for it. Equipment error, a flaw in the original scan, but both scans were run on independently calibrated instruments by separate operators. The data was consistent. Something that had been there was no longer there. That question, where it went and where it is now, is one we'll return to. because it might be the most important question in this entire story. They're warm, and they have heartbeats. As unsettling as the disappearance was, what a thermal imaging specialist found next moved this investigation into a category nobody had language for yet. She arrived on a March morning, 39 degrees Fahrenheit. The basalt columns on the cliff face were reading exactly as cold as the surrounding air, exactly what you'd expect from ancient volcanic rock on a winter morning in Ireland. Then she pointed her thermal camera at the section of cliff behind which the chamber was hidden. The screen lit up in orange and red. The 6 remaining figures inside that sealed, frozen, 60-million-year-old chamber were radiating heat at 99 degrees Fahrenheit, almost exactly the core body temperature of a healthy human being. She asked her colleagues if someone was pranking her. They weren't. There is no geological process that sustains heat at that level inside a basalt cliff surrounded by freezing ocean air. Heat dissipates. That's a fundamental law of thermodynamics. 60 million years is not just enough time for residual volcanic heat to bleed away. It's unimaginably more time than enough. Whatever was generating that warmth, it wasn't geological. Then the vibration sensors reported something worse. A rhythmic pulse was being detected through the rock, repeating every 4.7 seconds, consistent, steady, biological in pattern. One scientist described it very carefully as sounding exactly like a slow, powerful heartbeat. The thermal signatures weren't even constant. They spiked past 100 degrees at irregular intervals, then settled back. The spikes didn't correlate with tides, weather, or seismic data. They correlated with nothing external. They were coming from inside, from within those hollow shells. Something in there was alive, or something very close to alive that the word alive barely covers. Every 72 hours, the team ran a new scan to monitor the chamber, and what those sequential scans showed confirmed the fear that had been building since the first day. The figures were moving, not dramatically, not fast, a few inches between each scan. But the movement was consistent, and it was directional. The precise formation they had maintained for 60 million years, that perfect military spacing, was dissolving. The 6 figures were clustering together, drifting toward each other and moving steadily toward one specific point in the chamber, the sealed entrance. Something had changed inside those hollow shells. Something was waking up. Sit with that for a moment. These entities have been preserved inside volcanic rock through the extinction of the dinosaurs, through multiple ice ages, through the shifting of entire continents, through every catastrophe this planet has survived, through the entire span of human civilization, from the first stone tools to the satellites now orbiting overhead. Through all of it, without moving. And now, in our generation, they're shifting toward the door. Something woke them up, something recent. And we don't know what it was. The government cover-up. More than 1 million people visit the Giant's Causeway every year. Families, school groups, honeymooners. They walk across those ancient black stones and listen to tour guides explain volcanic cooling processes and old legends about giants. They take selfies. They buy postcards. They have no idea that 39 feet behind the cliff face, 6 massive entities are radiating body heat into cold stone and inching toward a sealed doorway. The government has worked extremely hard to ensure it stays that way. The barriers went up fast. Yellow warning signs citing erosion risk and unstable ground. Rangers positioned to redirect visitors. A clean, official, boring explanation that nobody questions because nobody imagines there's anything to question. One of the lead researchers The thermal imaging specialist spent months preparing a detailed academic paper documenting her findings. She documented her methodology meticulously. She gathered corroborating data from multiple independent readings. She submitted it to the official Geological Review Board. It was rejected within days. Faulty equipment, flawed methodology, case closed. A contact inside that review board called her privately afterward. He told her the rejection had nothing to do with her methodology. The real reason, he said, was that nobody in a position of authority wanted to be responsible for releasing information that would cause global panic. If peer-reviewed science confirmed biological heat signatures inside 60-million-year-old rock, it wouldn't just be a news cycle. It would demolish the entire framework of human prehistory. Every museum exhibit, every textbook chapter on the origins of life, every assumption about what this planet has been and who's been on it. In April, monitoring equipment was quietly removed from the site. The scientists involved received clear, direct warnings. Continued public discussion of their findings would end their careers. Most went silent, but not all of them. And the data they copied before the equipment was taken, it still exists. The evidence still exists. The electrician still has his original drone footage. 3 copies on 3 separate hard drives stored in different locations in his home. The researchers kept encrypted copies of the scan data before they were forced to surrender or destroy their primary records. That data has been shared carefully, passed through a small, quiet network of scientists who believe the public has a right to know what was found. And what that data showed, right up until the sensors went dark, was this. The 6 figures were still moving, still shifting, still generating heat. The 4.7-second pulse was still registering, and the figure closest to the door was just a few feet from the entrance. Its heartbeat, according to the final recorded data, was getting stronger every single day. What the AI revealed. Before the equipment was removed, one researcher made a decision that produced what may be the most important piece of evidence in this entire investigation. She compiled everything, every sonar reading, every thermal scan, every vibration pattern, every coordinate from all the 72-hour movement scans, and fed it into an advanced AI analysis platform used by leading universities for geological anomaly research. She expected the system to flag errors. She expected it to identify corrupted data or equipment malfunction. That would have been the simplest outcome for everyone. The AI processed all of it in under 4 minutes. Then, it returned results that made the entire team go completely quiet. Finding 1, the 4.7-second rhythmic pulse was not geological. The system cross-referenced it against a database of over 200,000 known natural phenomena. Tidal cycles, seismic signatures, underground water movement, thermal expansion, atmospheric pressure shifts, 0 matches. The AI's assessment was direct and unambiguous. The pattern is biological. Finding 2, the movement data wasn't random. Mapping the trajectory of each figure across multiple scan intervals, the AI identified coordinated, sequential positioning. Not independent drift, but synchronized movement, as if following a predetermined plan. Finding 3, and this is the one that broke the team. Hidden in the floor of the chamber, beneath the feet of the figures, were markings in the basalt that human analysis had completely missed. Not stress fractures, not erosion patterns, a repeating geometric sequence following consistent mathematical rules. The AI flagged it with 94% confidence as an intentional, structured symbol system, created by something that understood geometry at a level comparable to modern engineering. possibly a language. They didn't just survive in that cliff for 60 million years. They communicated. They left messages. They planned. They were never trapped. They were waiting. The AI's final output was a probability window, a calculated estimate for what it called in its clinical language a significant event at the sealed entrance, based on movement trajectories, thermal escalation rates, and the closing distance between the nearest figure and the door. Its projection within the next several months. The researchers printed that report. They kept copies. They watched the equipment get hauled away, the barriers go up, the official story lock into place. The AI doesn't have a career to protect. It doesn't fear consequences. It reads the data, and the data says something is coming. Where is the seventh one? Before we talk about what comes next, there's one question none of the researchers can stop thinking about, the one that sits underneath everything else in this story. When the chamber was first scanned, there were 7 figures. 4 days later, there were 6. The door hadn't opened. No movement was recorded on the outside of the cliff. Nothing was disturbed. One of them is already out. It moved through 60 million years of solid basalt without leaving a trace. And then it went somewhere. Somewhere no camera has caught it. Somewhere no sensor has found it. Somewhere outside the barricades and the official statements and the carefully maintained story. It could be in the deep Atlantic right now. It could be in an unmapped coastal cave somewhere along hundreds of miles of Irish shoreline. It could be somewhere that no human thought to look. Because until an electrician's drone captured 11 seconds of footage, no human had any reason to look. We don't know what it looks like when it moves freely. We don't know if it's aware of us. We don't know what 60 million years of waiting does to something, or what it wants now that it's apparently done waiting. One of these ancient, impossible, enormously old entities is already out in the world, moving through a civilization that has no idea it exists. What happens next? The stone door has opened once, as far as we know, but based on the rising heat signatures, the strengthening pulse, the coordinated movement toward the entrance, the researchers who were there believe it's going to open again. And when it does, 6 beings that have been sealed inside volcanic rock for 60 million years will walk out into a world they have never seen. A world of cities and satellites and 8 billion people who have spent their entire history assuming they were the planet's first intelligent inhabitants. What will they do? What do they remember? Do they have memories at all? Or just a plan written in geometric language on the floor of a basalt chamber? Are they dangerous? Are they afraid? After 60 million years in the dark, are they simply ready? Nobody knows. That's the answer. Nobody who has looked at this data has come back with certainty about what these things are or what they want. But one researcher, the thermal imaging specialist, the one who watched her paper get rejected and her career quietly threatened, said something before she went silent that no one who heard it has forgotten. We treat ancient history like something dead, she said. Something we dig up, label, and put behind glass. But what if ancient history isn't dead? What if it's just been sleeping? And what if it's about to wake up? The stone moved once. The heartbeats are getting stronger. The figures are at the door. We have spent our entire existence on this planet believing we were the first, that the deep past was gone, and that we were what history had been building toward. But 60 million years ago, something else was already here. Something that survived everything. Something that chose this moment, our moment, to come back. We are not the first. We have never been alone. And the question this story leaves you with isn't whether that door is going to open again. The question is, are we ready for what comes through it? If this story stayed with you, if you're still thinking about those 11 seconds of footage, about a sealed chamber 60 feet inside volcanic rock, about 6 figures moving toward a door, and about one that's already gone, then you already understand why the scientists who've seen the data can't stop thinking about it either. Drop a comment below and tell me, what do you think is really in that cliff? Ancient civilization? Something completely non-human? Or do you think there's an explanation we just haven't found yet? I want to know where you land on this. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now would be a really good time. Because if that door opens, you'll want to be here when it does. I'll see you in the next one.